everybody. Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Next one. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita Karma Phalam Karya Karma Karoti Yah Sasanyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Nirvignena Chakriyah.
Hare Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as the obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty.
Text 2. Yam sanyasimiti prahur yogam tam vritti pandava naya anasasyastya sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana.
What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification.
Text 3. Arurupshormurnya yogam karma karuna muchyate yogarudasya tasyaiva shama karuna muchyate.
For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means.
Text 4. Yada hinendriyartheshu na karma swanuchachate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudastadochyate.
A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desire, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities.
Text 5. Uddaredatmanatmanam natmanam vasadahet atmevyatmano bandhu atmeva ripuratmanah.
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well.
Text 6. Bandhuratmanamatasya nastasya yenatmevatmana jita anatmanastu shastrutve vartet matveva shatruvat.
For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy.
Text 7. Jitatmanah prashantasya paramatma samahita shitoshnu sukha dukheshu tatha manapamanayo.
For one who has conquered the mind, the Supersoul is already reached. For he who has attained tranquility, to such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same.
Text 8. Gnana Vignana Truptatma Kutasto Vijitendriya Yukta Ityute Yogi Samadrosta Samakanchana.
A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same.
Text 9. Suyar Mitre Udasina Madhyaste Dveshabandhushu Sadhushvapi cha Papeshu Samar Buddhir Vishishyate.
A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral meditators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind.
Text 10. Yogi yujita satatmatmanam, yogi yujita satatam atmanam rahisi stita, ekaki yata chitatma nirashira parigraha.
A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness.
Text 11 and 12. Suchodesha pratisthapya sthira masanamatmana nanyuchindrita nati nicham chailajin kushottaram tatrekagram manah krutva yata chitendra kriha upavishashane yujya dogamatmana vishuddhaye.
To practice yoga, one should go to secluded place and should lay pusa grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point.
Text 13 and 14. Samam karya kshiro grivam dharanya chalam sthirah sampeksha nasikagram swam desha chanva lokayan prashantatma vigirdbir brahmachari vrite stitah manasamyam uchito yukta asita matparah.
One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in straight line and stare steadily at the tip of his nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life.
Text 15. Yujjanevam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasa shante nirvana paramam matsya sanstami digachati.
Thus, practicing constant control of the mind, body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence.
Text 16. Nanyastratasya yogistai na chaikanastamanaschatah na chati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna.
There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or doesn't sleep enough.
Text 17. Yuktahar viharasya yukta chestasya karmasu yukta swapna bodhasya yogo bhavati dukhaha.
He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system.
Text 18. Yada viniyatam chitam atmane manye vavatishtate nispruha sarva kamebhyo yukta ityuchade tada.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
Text 19. Yatha dipo nivastasto nengate sopamastruta yogino yatta chittasya yujjato yogatmanah.
As a lamp in a wilderness place doesn't waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self.
Text 20 to 23. यत्रो परमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यन्मति तुष्यति सुखम् आत्यन्तिकं यदुन्दुग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियं वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्वललिति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं तत् यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्या दुःखं त्वं विद्या दुःखसंयोगं वियोगं योगसञ्जितम्.
In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never depart from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact.
Text 24. सनिश्चयेन योक्तेभ्यो योगो निर्वीण चेतसा संकल्प प्रभव कामास्त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् शेषतः मनसेवेन्द्रियाग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not to be delivered from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desire born of material speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind.
Hare Krishna. Please
Hare
forgive
Krishna.
for my mistake.
Hare Krishna, please forgive me for any mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhuta Mataji, for this nice Sanskrit. Thank you, Mitali Mataji, for reading the English so nicely.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So welcome to devotees to today's session. Seeing all the familiar names. Hare Krishna. So we continue today's chapter number 6, Dhyana Yoga. And today we'll read text number 7. Actually, I think I put it on a PowerPoint. Bear with me. Yeah. So before we read, we'll chant the Mangala Charanam prayers. Please, dear devotees, you can join in via unmuted mics. For those who are not familiar with the prayers, they are just before the introduction. Let me just see. In your books, the Bhagavad Gita, after the preface, just see. At the start of the introduction, prayers are there. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namah Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jitatmana Prasantasya Paramatma Samahitaha Sitoshna Sukha Dukeshu Tata Manopamanayoho. Word for word synonyms. Jita Atmanaha, of one who has conquered his mind. Prasantya, one who has attained tranquility by such control over the mind. Paramatma, the Supersoul. Sama itaha, approach completely. Sita, in cold. Ushna, heat. Sukha, happiness. Dukeshu, and distress. Tata, also. Mana, in honor. Apama, nayo, and dishonor. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. For one who has conquered the mind, the Supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Purport. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Lord, of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma or Supersoul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is Krishna conscious, one who is Krishna consciousness, in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress and happiness, cold and heat. This state is practical samadhi, or absorption in the Supreme. Verse again. For one who has conquered the mind, the Supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So this is a very interesting chapter. Dhyana yoga. Dhyana means meditation. So in the third verse, Lord Krishna says, Arurushu muner yoga, karma karanam uchyate yoga rudhasya tasyaiva, samaha karanam uchyate. So there's two words Lord uses in verse number 3. Arurushu. And Prabhupada has translated that as who has just begun yoga. This is the beginner. And then there's the word rudhasya, yoga rudhasya. And our rudhasya, Prabhupada is translated as one who has attained. Attained what? The perfection stage of yoga. So these are two types of people. The arurukshu, and the arudasya. The beginner and the perfected yogi. So from the verses 7 to 9, the Lord is describing the symptoms and the qualities of one who has perfected the yoga stage. This is important for us. Actually, every verse of the Bhagavad Gita is meant to be relevant to us. It's meant to be relevant to us. Normally, when one reads this verse, for one who has conquered the mind, the Supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Many of us, we struggle to relate to some of these verses, or we do not really absorb ourselves in the verse because we think, oh, this is way beyond me. This is way beyond me. The perfected stage of yoga. Srila Prabhupada's purport is very, very interesting. And what Prabhupada describes the perfected stage. Essentially, the perfected stage is very simply reached when one has conquered the mind. As the Lord says here, one who has conquered the mind, the Supersoul is already reached. And what is the result? Santasya, prasantasya. One has become peaceful. So one may ask the question then, how and when will we know we have conquered the mind? Obviously, these symptoms are discussed here, but Srila Prabhupada brings it down to a very practical level in the purport. Very practical level. Now, let's see who is, share your thoughts, dear devotees. Feel free to share your thoughts. What does Prabhupada explain in the purport as the state or the symptom of one who has conquered the mind? Would anyone like to say?
He stays equipoised in all situations.
Hare Krishna Mataji, he
Hare
stays
Krishna.
equipoised in all
Equipoised in all situations.
Yes, and what underpins the state of being equipoised?
You do not react. You do not respond.
Okay, you do not react, you do not respond. Thank you for that. Let's hear Krishangi Mataji. You would like to share something?
I was thinking that one who is given up all material desires, who has conquered the mind, then he's not thinking of anything material. He's concentrating on the Supreme.
He's not thinking of anything material, he's thinking of the Supreme. Again, very, very true, correct, as Emma Mataji has also said. But something very, Srila Prabhupada breaks it down to a very, very, very practical level in the purport. Jolie Mataji, you'd like to
Is
share?
it to do with the calmness you develop after you've gone through and you become blissful? So nothing in this world, material things affect you.
That's true. That is one of the state, and that's true. That's one if the state person is symptom of one is out of the mind. But I'm looking for something very, very particular here.
Hare Krishna,
Humility, humility, Prabhuji.
Okay, sorry. Okay, let's just say there's Joli Mataji, there's Prabhuta Mataji, and then there's Sandeep Prabhu. Let's go in that order. Joli Mataji, you wanted to add anything
Yeah,
more?
I just wanted to say, you develop a state of humility because you've renounced all material assets, and it doesn't, you do not, you're not contaminated with the material world.
That's true. That's true.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuta Mataji.
I was going to say, Prabhuji, once have reached that position, then the material, the Prabhupada used the word material existence. So one has achieved that, controlling the mind. So any material desire or any material substance, doesn't affect, namely like, stress, distress, hot, cold, everything is the same, those things doesn't bother one person.
Yes, very much so. True. Sandeep Prabhu, you wanted to add anything?
Yes, Prabhuji, I was saying that what underpins these symptoms is that the mind is under control.
How is it under control?
By staying focused on Supreme Personality of Godhead.
And in particular, how?
In particular, how? It's remaining Krishna conscious.
Yes. But Prabhupada is if you look at the purport, Prabhupada is like 3 or 4 sentences, he's saying the same thing. And he's giving us something very practical down to our level. How we can control the mind.
Yoga system.
Service, Prabhuji.
Service, okay.
Superior dictation.
I think the yoga system is saying that you can control the mind, one of the.
Okay. Emma Mataji, you just hit the nail on the head. What did you say?
Superior dictation, understanding that there is a superior authority.
Would you like to expand on that?
The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. So it's basically understanding that there is a superior power and that the superior power is leading our life, controlling our life, and we need to follow the instructions that are given by him.
Yes. Let me expand on that, because that's sort of almost from our level, for our level. And we're not talking about the yogis and all, because everything in the Bhagavad Gita must be something we relate to, something that's practical, something we can expand. And Prabhupada does that in the purport. And you've actually mentioned that. And it relates to the statement that's in the verse itself, and then also Prabhupada says in the purport. As soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached. And I'll come back to that statement. So essentially what Prabhupada is saying is, in a conditioned state, it is our material mind that essentially governs our actions. The dualities that we feel in terms of this is happiness, this is sadness, this is heat, this is cold, this is honor, and this is dishonor. According to the Lord, he explains this very clearly in the 11th canto to Uddhava. These dualities are largely a situation or arises from mental distinctions. The dualities arise from mental distinctions. But Prabhupada is saying there may arrive a time when one says, you know what, I am no longer guided by the mental mind, right? Now I am guided by superior authority. And the word Prabhupada is using there is superior dictation. And Prabhupada says when one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. And Prabhupada said, the effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma or the Supersoul. So this is the symptom. This is the symptom. One automatically follows the dictation of the superior authority. Now one may ask the next question, what is the superior authority? What is the superior? What is the dictation of the superior authority? What do we understand by this? Would anyone like to say? If someone says, you follow the dictation of the superior authority, what does that mean?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
that you follow your Paramatma, because the Paramatma resides in everybody's heart. So then once you reach that position, then the Paramatma guides you.
Okay, now let's talk about our situation, Mataji.
Prabhuji, instructions from the spiritual master?
Yes, yes. Prabhupada says the external manifestation of the Paramatma is the Supersoul. So we have two types of superior dictation. One is Chaitya Guru from within the heart, and externally the Supersoul manifests as the Guru. And the Guru follows what? The Shastra. So this is what it means to follow superior dictation. So the point I'm trying to arrive at is we do not have to be like these Ashtanga yogis. The Ashtanga yogis, they may come to the point of seeing the Supersoul within the heart, and they follow the Supersoul. But for the masses of people, especially in this Kali Yuga, where the Ashtanga yoga system is not recommended, one controls the mind through the process of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So if one follows the order of the Guru, 100%, and again, there is two stages in the process of bhakti, the stage of sadhana bhakti, and then there's a stage of spontaneous devotional service, rag bhakti. So if one lives one's life, not following the mind, but saying, Guru said, I should do this, I should do that. Therefore, we say every day when we sing the Guru Vandana, what is the translation of the Guru Vandana? The lotus feet of the spiritual master are the only way to attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all desires. That means our consciousness becomes one with the instructions of the Guru, who is the external manifestation of the Supersoul. And then from within, one is guided from the Supersoul is called Chaitya Guru. Prabhupada used to say there are three types of disciples: the first class, the second class, and the third class. The first class disciple, the Guru will give him an instruction. And then he scratches his head. What did Guru say? I forgot what he said. So Guru will give instruction, but he can't follow properly. Sometimes he will, sometimes he doesn't. He can't assimilate the Guru's instructions. So that's like the third class disciple. He's not able to fully follow the Guru's instructions. He's still very much under the control or the influence of the mind. And that is the reason he cannot follow, because he's still under the control of the mind. The second class disciple, Prabhupada said, is one, the Guru gives him an instruction and he executes the instruction perfectly. Perfectly. That's the second class disciple. So one may say, what is the first class disciple then? Who can say?
Understands the Guru's instruction before he says.
And how
He
is
can
that?
read.
Yes, that's true.
Well,
That's
I don't
true.
know how it is possible. Maybe knowing about spiritual master more and more, so you will know. Like when my daughter wants, I will know what she wants. So when I build that relationship, maybe I will know what my spiritual master wants.
Yes, Prabhupada says the first class disciple is, even before the Guru can say, this is what I want, the disciple knows, and the disciple does it perfectly for the satisfaction of the Guru. Now, someone may ask, how? How will the first class disciple know what the Guru wants? And that's explained by Srila Prabhupada in his books. He said, the advanced devotee, and this is what this verse is also talking about. He is so much in touch with the super soul, the Chaitya Guru. He's so much one with this, in touch with the super soul, that the super soul will say, Guru likes this. Guru wants this, so you do. So this disciple, he's so advanced. He's so much in touch with the Chaitya Guru, the Lord within the heart, that he's able to understand what the Guru wants, and he executes it. He executes it. So this is the stage we all aspire for. We don't want to be third class disciple. And we understand that the Guru is, as Prabhupada very emphatically, very clearly says, the spiritual master is the external representation of the super soul. At least we want to be second class disciple. But ultimately, when we come completely on the purified stage, beyond the mind, beyond the influence of the mind, as this verse says here, that for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. This is the meaning. And this is the meaning what he's saying here. For one who's conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. 4 years, he has attained tranquility. And for such a stage, when one comes to such a stage, there is no such thing as happiness or distress. If one is acting according to the order of the Guru, there is no such thing as from a material point of view, happiness and distress. There's no duality. There's no such thing. Once Prabhupada was talking to one of his disciples, and the disciple was talking about Srila Prabhupada's mission. And then he said, it was actually Swarup Damodar Goswami. And he said, Prabhupada, you went through so many troubles to establish this Krishna consciousness movement. And Prabhupada said, trouble? I never saw any trouble. I only saw the order of my spiritual master. There was no trouble. There was no trouble. It was only the order of my spiritual master. And there's no such just executing the order of the spiritual master. Honor is just dishonor is just a relative thing. If there is some reversal, that is not a difficulty. I'm simply following the order of the spiritual master. I'm simply following the order of the Paramatma, the Supersoul, the Lord. Therefore, Prabhupada is really a beautiful purport. Prabhupada really explains the meaning of this verse so nicely. He says, one who is following the dictation of the superior authority. Then this is the meaning of this verse. This is the meaning of the verse. And therefore, Prabhupada says, because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress, happiness, cold and heat. This stage is called practically samadhi or absorption in the Supreme. And this is the final part. Absorption. Prabhupada is saying this is a symptom of absorption, samadhi. It's just like sometimes when you're absorbed in doing something, sometimes they say you are in the zone. You're so absorbed that everything else shuts down. You may be, it's becoming very hot, you don't feel it. It may be very cold, you're not feeling it. Someone may insult you, you're not feeling it. Why? Because you're just so absorbed in what you're doing. And this is what samadhi is. And this is what dhyan, the mature, the condensed stage of meditation, dhyan is samadhi, or absorption in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when the devotees are absorbed in Krishna consciousness, there's just no dualities. No dualities. Does that make sense to you, dear devotees? What was explained?
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji. Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Very nice.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Has anyone got any questions or reflections or comments?
Prabhuji,
Sandeep?
Prabhuji, I was saying, how about the physical pain? For example, I can understand completely being absorbed under the instructions of Guru, even Shastra or Sadhu. But suppose there is a physical agony, then how one remains immune to the sorrow or joys of this?
That's a very good question. Very good question. This is because of coming out of the bodily state. Prabhupada used to often give the example of the coconut. The coconut, Prabhupada says, the coconut, it's got the flesh and it's got the shell. And the white flesh is so attached to the shell. And but after some time, when it becomes mature, you can shake the coconut and the flesh actually breaks free from the shell. And Prabhupada says, this is what happens when you reach the transcendental stage. Like just one simple example, one practical example. Srila Prabhupada, we know, towards his last days of his manifest Leela on this planet, he took no food and drank practically very little or nothing for months. And Prabhupada was practically just flesh and bones, skin and bones, sorry, just skin and bones. And the Kaviraj who came to see Srila Prabhupada, he was telling the devotees that situation that Srila Prabhupada was in, that sensation, that burning sensation would have been so acute that any ordinary person would have been writhing in pain. But yet we know Srila Prabhupada was not like that. He was still completely equipoised. He was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam still with absolute clarity. And Prabhupada was personal testimony, Sandeep Prabhu, that how one can transcend the body. It is for us, it may be, something we cannot identify with. It may even seem impossible. But when one reaches an advanced stage of consciousness, one actually can transcend even the pain barrier. The pain barrier. Does it answer your question, maybe?
Yes, Prabhuji, totally. Because I was also reading, I think I was reading the biography, and when the Prabhupada was taking those injections in USA, he just went through it. And thank you. Such a good example. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Comment. Jolly Mataji, you were going to add something also.
This might be just a petty thing because it can be worked out by itself. I think you were saying about Prabhupada not being affected and saying about hard work. He did make a statement that you think I'm writing all these books day and night for no reason. Why do you think I spend time to read, to write these books? They're for reading, and you must read. Or is it just a statement as we make all the time?
When you say contradiction, what do you mean, Jolly Mataji?
Well, he was saying that nothing affected him. He didn't say, he said something about he doesn't experience hard work. Work is hard work.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean. No, it's something separate. One is relating to his personal body, and one is relating coming from a sense of compassion for the disciple.
Yeah, I guess that. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, that clarifies it beautifully.
Hare Krishna. I just want to tell you a personal story. So today I went to meet a person, a devotee called Sanjeev. Sanjeev was the son of Manu Prabhu. Manu Prabhu was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada who got initiated in Bari Place in 1970. So Sanjeev Prabhu was trying to clear out the personal belongings of his father. And, there were books and paraphernalia he had. And he said, if I could take it and distribute it among the devotees. So I went to his place today and I spent a few hours with him. And he was sharing with me his father's final days. And he was saying that his father became completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. He was in I think it was Middlesex Hospital. And the doctors and the nurses were saying, I think your father has become possessed. Because all Manu Prabhu would do was say, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And he even showed me a video. And he said when he went to see his father, because it was during COVID time, and he was the only person allowed to see his father. So when he go and see his father, the first thing his father would say is Hari Bol. And then after that, he would say, would you like to eat? Have some food. And he'll say, Hari Bol. Then he was not sure. Then he would feed him. And he would take a bite and he'll say, Hari Bol. And constantly, he was just chanting, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. He was just chanting the name of Krishna. And he said, it was just amazing. The doctors were saying he had become possessed, but he was just completely absorbed in the holy name of Krishna, and he had completely transcended the body. Completely transcended the body. So this is the power of Harinam. This is the power of Krishna consciousness. It's possible for every one of us. This verse that we're reading today, by what Srila Prabhupada has given us, every one of us today who is on this call can achieve this state in this very lifetime, that by following the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us. And that's really wonderful. It's really wonderful. Every verse we read in Bhagavad Gita, actually, every verse is relevant and applicable to us. Hare Krishna. Any other reflections or comments anyone may have?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhuji, linked to this, the pain that the body experiences, I was reading the instruction that Narad Muni is giving to King Prachina Barishta.
Yes.
And so is my understanding correct that the pain and the joy and the pain is experienced by the subtle body? So if we transgress the subtle body by chanting or by engaging our senses in Krishna's service and hearing about Krishna, then we are oblivious to pain and joy of life. Is that correct?
Yes,
Understanding?
one transcends. The subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. If we become fully Krishna conscious, yes, we transcend the subtle body. And by transcend, it's the subtle body that, we have the soul, we have the body, and through the influence of the subtle body, we think we are, the soul thinks it's the body. And because it thinks, this is in the Bhagavatam I was telling yesterday, if you read the 11th canto, I think it's chapter number 23, Krishna, the Lord gives 3 examples, beautiful examples, practical examples of how the soul feels pain and pleasure when it identifies with the body, through the influence of the false ego. But when that is broken by the influence of the false ego, then it becomes completely aloof from the body. Yes. It's only the mind, and again, if you read chapter number 23 of the 11th canto, I think it's so beautiful how the Lord explains that by some very, very nice analogies. Very nice analogies.
Right. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. And linked to that Guru and being connected to Guru's desires, I was thinking of the pranam mantra of Rupa Goswami, Manobhishtam.
Yes.
Manobhishtam stapitam yena. So it's that connection. Is that the similar kind of, obviously Rupa Goswami is at another level, but what I'm saying, when you were describing that connection with Guru's desires.
Yes, that's Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam. Srila Rupa Goswami understood the mind, and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is a beautiful example where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting this verse, one verse in the Ratha Yatra, and nobody could understand what this verse was about, what it means. But Srila Rupa Goswami understood, and he wrote this on a palm leaf, and he went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Mahaprabhu went to take a bath, and he tucked what he written in the straw roof, and when Mahaprabhu came back, he knew that verse, and he picked it up, and he read what Rupa Goswami read, and he said, and everyone was saying, but how Mahaprabhu was saying, how could he know my mind? And Swarup Damodar Goswami said, yes, because he got your mercy, he knows your mind. Therefore we say, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Doesn't have to be a question or a comment. A reflection, if you take anything away from today's session, you like to share what you take away. It'll be really nice to hear if you're taking away anything.
It puts a good, better light for me, Prabhuji, to unpick the sentences and pick out the meaning of them. It's really good. Thank you for the wonderful class. It's so important that you have an understanding about it. You can read and read and read and say, oh, I finished a whole canto or a whole chapter, and you don't get much out of it unless you really pay attention, focus, and unpick the meaning. You're not going to get the essence of it.
Yes.
That's what I understood. I picked up. Very good. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Jolly Mataji, and then there's one shared by Surupi Mataji. The person, Haribol, will be in a glorified space, a much better space, yes, all respect. But yes, in June, July, when I heard few classes, even I thought, what's this Haribol about every 5 minutes Haribol? Now I kind of understand for the example, it's very deep. Yes, true. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
I also find myself saying Hari Bol and Hare Krishna, even in a different audience. And sometimes they look at me strangely, but it's kind of so ingrained sometimes you can't let go.
That's true.
Unconsciously, you're repeating it subconsciously is there. It's lovely. Thank you, Prabhuji, for telling us that story. It's so true. Once you got it on your lips, it doesn't disappear.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Very true. All right, dear devotees, I think if there's no more questions or reflections or comments, we'll close for today's class. Thank you very much for your participation, your questions and your contributions. All glories to your service for coming and participating every day. Panchakalpa Turubhyascha
Kripa Sindhu Dev
Jai Shila Prabhupada.
Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna to
Thank you very
everybody.
much.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much.